Hey everybody, and welcome back to Exploration.G. My name is Griffin, and today we're going to be talking about the 3rd Gen Tacoma, why I chose one, and why I think you should choose one as well. Everybody, let's go ahead and get into the features and functionalities. And yes, I'm wearing a different shirt because it's a whole different day. I had to split the video into two different days of recording. That's okay. But so why did I get a Tacoma? Well, realistically, wasn't really looking to get one at the time. I had a 2012 Jeep Wrangler, and I had modded it, did a minor lift kit, a bumper, winch, all that good stuff, as you can see here. But I really wasn't looking for one. The Tacoma kind of just fell in my lap. Sat in it, and I had that feeling. It was like a weird feeling of like I sat in it, I was like, this is mine. It's got to be mine. I've got to buy this thing. So ultimately, it was like maybe 3 days later, and I had the Tacoma in my hands, which was fantastic because I've had a 1st Gen Tacoma before, and it was amazing, though I didn't really do too much overlanding or off-roading like I planned to do with this model. And but I got this one, and before we really dive into the model that I have, which is the TRD off-road, just going to go ahead and talk about some of the other trim packages if you're looking to get a Tacoma and what that looks like. Not necessarily prices, because I didn't really dive into that, more or less features, because that's how I was looking at it as far as like what to expect and what you're trying to do with the vehicle. And the Tacomas nowadays, there are a decent amount of trim packages. We can start off with the first one. I mean, the base level is the SR, the Toyota Tacoma SR. It's the base level. It still comes 4x4, really no notable options. They have like your typical steel wheels. It only comes with the 3.6. Really not much. It's the base model. The next model that you have is the Toyota Tacoma SR5. That one also can come 2-wheel, 4-wheel. It comes in either the 2.4 liter or the 3.6 liter. But a notable difference for that one is in the later 3rd gens, I think in the 2020s and newer, it can come with a rear locker. So if you're looking for an off-road vehicle and you want a rear locker, but you're not looking to spend the price of a TRD off-road or a TRD Pro, but you want the rear locker, which, let's be honest, the rear locker for Toyota it's literally Toyota Gold. Aside from one other feature that we'll get into a little later on, but it comes with the rear locker with the 4x4 as another add-on package. So that one's really good. It comes with a little bit different tires or a little bit different wheels. The next one after that is the TRD Sport. The TRD Sport model just gives you cosmetic changes for the TRD packages. It's basically everything that the TRD, or sorry, not the TRD, the SR5 comes with, and some cosmetic changes when it comes to the TRD package, maybe the heated seats and all those other things. Not too much changes. I think it comes with slightly different wheels as well. The next one moving into is the model that I own, which is the TRD off-road. This is when you really start to get some of the different features for 4x4ing and overlanding and all that good stuff. So one noticeable one is you get the crawl or the rear locker, and the next one you get is the real notable one. Toyota's brand new, like gold, like you want this, so you got it. It's going to be amazing. It's the crawl control. You also have the multi-train select as well, along with the crawl control. But the main thing is the crawl control. Basically, what that does is once you activate it, you can change the speed of it, and the vehicle will drive itself. All you have to do is really take your feet off the pedals, and it's basically 4x4 cruise control, really. I have a video planned out to demonstrate that. I want to try and bog it down on the sand, since I do live out here by the beach, and use the crawl control and just watch the vehicle climb itself out of a bogged out situation. But it's a great feature. It's amazing. I haven't had to use it personally yet. I do plan on exploring that, but I have used the multi-terrain select, and you can switch it on the go. It was great. I had a trail where I was doing rock, gravel, rock, stuff like that, and that video was coming a little bit later, but I was constantly changing the terrain select, and I was having no issues with traction loss, and I'm on highway terrain tires right now. But moving on to the next one is the TRD Limited. It's a TRD off-road with a cosmetic package. It's a blacked out package. If you like having a blacked out vehicle, but you want the off-road goodies and you don't, stuff like that, and you want it off the factory to be blacked out, the Limited is the way to go. There's really no other notable changes from the off-road to the Limited. But the next one, the big boy, the smack daddy of trim packages that Toyota Tacomas offer, is the TRD Pro. And the notable change of that one, mud flaps. But it doesn't stop there. You also get the Fox Shock off-road suspension package. So they change out from the Bilstein shocks that the TRDs, the trim level TRD packages come with, which is the Bilstein shocks. You get right into the Fox shocks. On top of that, another notable thing that you can add on to the TRD Pros is a Toyota factory 2-inch lift. I think it's a 2-inch in the front, 1-inch in the back, but it's factory right from the jump. It's already lifted, and you have a higher ground clearance. So there's also that. Of course, the TRD Pro is going to be a little bit more expensive, but if you're not looking for the Fox shocks, or you plan on changing out the shocks yourself to a nitrogen charge of your liking, maybe you have Terraflex or a Rough Country or an Old Man Emu, whatever it may be, maybe you just want the packages of the crawl control and the multi-terrain select and all that good stuff, just go with the TRD off-road. It's a little bit cheaper, and you're going to change out the shocks anyway as you're building your rig. Or even then, just go down to the SR5 if you just want the rear locker, and you can build the shocks from there. Because even though the SR5s, I don't believe, come with the Bilstein, I mean, you already had plans to switch out the shocks anyway. But some of the features that this vehicle has, the TRD off-road has, and mine has, is the engine size is the 3.5 V6, and that has a 278 horsepower. Of course, mine is naturally aspirated. I don't plan on changing that. I'm not going to put a supercharger or a turbo on it. That just kind of muddles it up. Really, you don't need that high power, in my opinion, for off-roading. Mainly because I got through a lot of stuff with the Wrangler, and the Wrangler really had kind of the same amount of horsepower, and that was naturally aspirated, and I had no issues with it. But it does have 265 foot-pounds of torque, which is great. You want torque when you're off-roading, of course, with gear ratios and stuff like that, and gearing down with low gear and stuff like that is going to help with torque as well. And it does have the 6-speed auto transmission. This is probably the first time I'm doing overlanding and 4x4 exploring with an auto trans. The Wrangler was a 6-speed transmission. That was great. Really had no issues with the transmission itself with the Wrangler, but we're not here for that. We're here for the Tacomas. The next one, of course, the off-road packages. I've already kind of touched on it. You got the multi-terrain select. You got a bunch of different features with that on what terrains the Tacoma has featured in it for traction control. You've got the crawl control. You can change the speeds, whether or not you're trying to climb an incline or get out of a bogged out situation and you just don't have a winch or anybody to pull you. Chances are the crawl control can probably help you get you out of that situation. Of course, I want to explore that. I'm going to make a video of that and just bog the truck down on the beach and see if I can get out without anybody pulling me out, me using tracks or anything like that. You got the rear locker. It's an electronic rear locker, and those are just going to be great all around, of course, because if you're slipping on one of the wheels and you need that rear locker, you need that rear diff locked up to gain traction, just turn it on and the truck will activate it. You don't need to get out, lock anything up. There's no air suspension or air lines to activate or anything like that. It's real great, real easy. The next one, I've got the 4-door, which has the 60-inch bed or the 5-foot bed, and on top of that, the 3rd gen beds. I think this was a great thing that Tacoma started doing. I think they started doing it in the 2nd gens. Is the bed's not painted. It's kind of like a plastic composite material, so you don't have to worry about rust necessarily. You don't have to worry about paint scratching or really bed lining it. In my opinion, my 1st gen was had Line-X on it, which was amazing. You know, beat the crap out of it and never had any issues with Line-X. It was fantastic. But the bed cover or the beds on these 3rd gens, I don't feel like you need to put anything on it. No covers, no Line-X, nothing. I think it's an amazing upgrade on the beds that the Tacomas have. On top of that, they come with a feature of having an AC outlet in the back. So if you plan on running like a camper shell and having a mini fridge in back there, or a Dometic fridge, whatever it looks like, some of those fridges run off of 40 watts. And the Tacoma's outlet while in drive runs off of 120 watts, or excuse me, 100 watts. It's a 120 volt system, and it runs off of 100 watts while in drive. While you're parked and you activate it, it runs off of 400 watts, and you can let the vehicle idle at that point and charge whatever you need, or run a fridge or whatever that looks like. Mainly my idea with it is to run a refrigerator back there whenever I do get a shell over top, and that'll be great. I'll have my food cold all the way through, don't have to deal with ice or anything like that. So, but that's what I got for the bed on that one. The wheels and tires, as of right now, I've got the TRD wheels, the TRD off-road wheels. I don't plan on changing them. I like the way they look. I've never really been a fan of aftermarket wheels, mainly because being a technician and working with aftermarket wheels are kind of a pain. But I like the way the stock TRD off-road wheels look. I like the size and all that good stuff. Like I said, I am running highway terrain tires right now. I do plan on changing those to all-terrains. I plan on using the Falcon Wild Peaks. Had those on the Wrangler. Got friends that have them. They're great. They're quiet. They're great all-terrain tires. So I plan on getting those again. Whether or not I switch it from there, get the KO2s that everyone gets, I don't know. Don't have that plan yet. I do know that I'm going to get the Wild Peaks. But moving on to kind of what I want to try and do with this vehicle. As of right now, I don't have any suspension plans to change the suspension or lift it, mainly because it's a new area for me with having front independent suspension. That you kind of got to think about it a little bit differently. It's a lot easier to lift solid front and rear axles, in my opinion, because you're not, when you have the solid front axle or solid rear axle and you lift it, you're lifting and you're lowering the whole diff and axle all at the same time. Now, if you lift independent suspensions, all you're doing is, so you got the diff here and then you've got the axles coming out of it. All you're doing, you're taking the diff and you're taking the axles and you're going like this. So you're changing the drive angles of the CV joints. So you kind of got to be careful with that, on how you play with that, whether or not you got to lower the diff while lifting the vehicle. It's just a lot of aspects. I got to think about a little bit more of what I plan to do with the vehicle if I do decide to go down that route. But as of right now, really what I want is I have a tonneau cover on the vehicle currently, and I want to change that to, I've been bouncing around a lot of thoughts, but I settled on getting a soft topper. And as you can see here, it's just a soft shell top that goes over top the bed. Got a buddy at work that's got one. He said he has no issues with water intrusion, and that's kind of what I want. And with the soft topper, that company also makes a metal frame to go around that, which is going to work further into getting a rooftop tent and having recovery gear mounted to the side of the vehicle and all that stuff. And one, it's going to be lighter than getting a shell. It comes out to about the same price as getting a hard shell and getting it painted and getting the tent. But for me, it's going to be lighter. And since I don't have a plan to change my rear leafs to accommodate for more weight, it's going to be a better option for me. So that's the route that I want to go with that. And again, I've already spoke on the tires, switching from highway terrains to all terrains. And of course, like, I've got a rooftop tent in mind. It's just one off Amazon. But if you have any suggestions, or if you've looked into rooftop tents, maybe you want to have a conversation about it, comment down below. I'll meet you down there and we'll figure out what's going on. But that's all I got for the features and functionalities with this. Like I said, if you got any questions on it, just, you know, ask me down below. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in and exploring what makes the 3rd gen so great with me. I'd love to hear down in the comments what you guys are working on, if you're working on any rigs or any mods. And if you have any questions, we'll see each other in the comments.